Everybody here? The next item on the agenda is item number 8, discussion by council, vote, or other action regarding facilities and road improvement bond referendum. We have 3 subtitles on this agenda item. A is acceptance of amended facilities plan to conform to budget constraints. B is proposed amendment to resolution seeking General Assembly approval for bond referendum. And C is approval of proposal and expense for the Stage 2 application to the Rhode Island Department of Education. I will tee this up because I'm perhaps the most familiar with it, as I chaired the Public Facilities Advisory Task Force. Folks will remember that we've had a number of public hearings on proposal to make improvements to a number of town buildings, including municipal and school buildings, as well as our discussion on making an investment in road repair throughout the town. And if you go back a little bit in time, we had what was once a $12 million facilities proposal for the town and school buildings. When it was decided we wanted to include the road repairs as part of the Invest in NS proposal, we knew that we heard from Mr. Casale, the town's hired engineer, that the cost to do the most pressing road problems was about $2.5 million. And that presented us with the challenge of reducing the facilities proposal from $12 million down to $9.5 million. And I subsequently met with the superintendent of schools, with the police chief, with the architect, designer from RGB, in an attempt to see where we could cut costs from the facilities proposal in order to accommodate the road proposal. We accepted, I believe it was about the March 17th meeting, we accepted as an exhibit the $12 million plan with the understanding that we were going to be coming back and making a subsequent presentation, or at least introducing a modified plan to that. And that's what we have before us. And what it does, it was in our packets. I'll just briefly summarize some of the changes. There were, let me just hang on for 1 second. So, just as a brief background, we talked about making an investment in the Memorial Town Hall building to secure the building envelope, to move the town administration offices out of that building, to continue to use the first floor temporarily for town board and commission meetings, to move the town administration and the annex administration into the Kendall Dean building with the school department. And everything fits. It also included making significant repairs to the Bushy School, where the police station's housed. And what has changed is that, oh, I'm sorry, and then, of course, addressing Hallowell by knocking Hallowell down and putting an addition onto North Smithfield Elementary School of 4 additional classrooms, bumping up the cafeteria to accommodate grades 4 and 5 at NSES. What's changed from that plan, the $12 million plan, is that there's a number of additional rooms that were part of the cafeteria bump up that have been eliminated. We have eliminated the cost associated with moving the court over to the Bushy School. That brought down that cost in that building substantially. And then there were some shavings off of the repair bill to the Bushy School. So what we have in our packets is a plan that doesn't quite get us to the 9.5 figure. It's actually 9.7. But we're going to have to live with 9.5. So additional costs are going to be required, so cost cutting measures. I think that they're minimal enough to do that. Still a fair amount that's budgeted in contingencies, reserves, within the overall number. And I'm comfortable with this plan as it's been presented by RGB. Are there any questions on the revised plan that's been presented by RGB in our packets?
trying to say that we maybe made a mistake and should split all these pieces, because people are getting a lot of feedback that people want to have this split, and they may be right on this, so I'd like to talk about that.
Yes, and that's going to actually come up under sub-item B on the proposed amendment of the resolution. But at this point, what I'm attempting to get is approval and acceptance of the amended facilities plan to conform to budget constraints. So hearing and seeing, reading the revised plan that's in our packets, is there a motion to do that? So, moved by Councilor Zelinski. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor McGee. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Yaz.
In light of the action of the council on the items 5, 6, and 7 prior, I've changed my mind. I don't think this town can afford any expenditure of funds that's going to increase taxes. When we turn around and have an opportunity as a council to expand the commercial tax base, and we decide not to. So going forward, this would only put more burden on the residential tax base. We are actually now an anti-business town council. And because of that, I don't think we should put any burdens whatsoever on the residential taxpayers by any additional bond whatsoever. Anything that's going to cost this town money between now and December 1st, I will be voting no on. So I just want to be on the record to let you know that you're sending mixed messages here. You want to have the money, and you want to be able to do things, you want to be able to make improvements, but you also want to put 100 jobs at risk. You don't want to expand the commercial and industrial tax base, and you want to let it all go on the backs of residential taxpayers. And I will not allow that to happen under my watch, so I'll be voting no.
Any further comments? Hearing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Selves. Yes. McGee.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. So the plan as presented in our packets is now the official plan for facilities improvements. Yes, it is. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4-page document that covers, as page 101, the summary of recommendations, reduced scope of WISHI. The next one is proposed school department scope of work, recommendations for the school department. And then the third one is the town proposed public building scope of work, recommendations for property consolidations. And I would point out that I think it's been well demonstrated that these investments actually save the town operating costs going forward. The next item that Mr. McGee was referring to is the proposed amendment of resolution seeking General Assembly approval of bond referendum. In order for this to appear on the ballot in November, we have to have General Assembly approval to do that, because it's regarding bonds. And I'll let any other council who wishes to speak to it. But I share Mr. McGee's concern, since we took that vote to bundle proposals as town buildings, school buildings, and roads all in one. I know I've received an enormous amount of feedback from the public that does not like that approach. And I suspect that other folks have heard. It's not surprising what I heard from you. I don't know if you wanted to add anything further to that.
Yeah, I heard a lot of flack on that. Everybody was saying the same thing. They liked the opportunity, and a lot of residents were here that night that happened and said they wanted to do that. And we pretty much thought it was a great plan. And then it turns out sometimes, things go wrong. And, everybody, a lot of people, even my own father, said, you guys should have split that up. And so many residents came up to me and said that. I said, I have to bring it up and see if we can do that. Because a lot of people just said, we're going to hold the whole thing, we'll get nothing. And I read the papers and everything. I understand, so I figured out, just bring it up.
Anybody else wish to speak on this?
Mr. President. Mr. President, if you recall, I did try to persuade that we do break it up. I'm a firm believer that our residents are more than capable of separating the bond issue and voting accordingly. So I'm glad to see that it's coming back up for reconsideration. As I was in the minority that night, I couldn't bring it up for reconsideration, but I'm glad it's back before this council. Thank you, Mr. President.
Just to clarify, what's on the agenda is not a reconsideration, but rather proposed amendment of the resolution seeking General Assembly approval of bond referendum. And as one of the three that voted in favor, I request the council's consideration of this. In our packets, we have the original resolution.
Mr. President, it is asking to reconsider how it goes forward to the General Assembly. That's my point.
Well, but that's different than I think, and I did consult with the solicitor on this in terms of the technical approach. And it's listed on the agenda as a proposed amendment of the resolution. We have the resolution in our packets, the original one, and I'm proposing to amend that into 3 resolutions that are also in our packets. One pertains to the road improvement question for $2.5 million. The next one refers to the consolidation of town and school administration offices and the rehabilitation of town municipal buildings at a cost of $5.2 million. And the third one refers to the rehabilitation or the dealing with the Hallowell issue and putting the addition onto NSES. Actually, I spelled it out. Why don't I just read them? And I do want to point out, before I even read these, there was one other aspect of the revised plan that I didn't mention that I think is worth mentioning. And that is that looking to trim the costs, it was recommended by the superintendent, and I believe will be voted on by the school committee tomorrow, to not raise Hallowell, but instead to put a fence around Hallowell. And I expressed concerns about that, because I think from the beginning we talked about this being a comprehensive, long-term approach, and unless we can tell people what we're doing with Hallowell, I personally think that's a mistake. And I think that there was a way to continue to raise Hallowell and still do what we need to accommodate the students. So, but that's what it is. That's what we have before us. So I will read at least the top portion of each resolution. Resolution of the Town of North Smithfield authorizing the General Assembly to enact legislation authorizing the Town of North Smithfield to issue bonds and notes in an amount not to exceed $2.5 million for the purpose of financing the repair and rehabilitation of local road infrastructure. And there's a number of whereases, which I'm going to dispense with reading unless anybody would like me to read them. Second resolution is authorizing the General Assembly to enact legislation authorizing the Town of North Smithfield to issue bonds and notes in an amount not to exceed $5.2 million for the purpose of refinancing the repair and rehabilitation of the Kendall Dean Building, Memorial Town Hall Building, and the municipal annex to achieve efficiencies in the consolidation of municipal and school administration functions in accordance with a plan adopted by the Town Council on May 19, 2014, that we just did. Third resolution, authorizing the General Assembly to enact legislation and authorizing the Town of North Smithfield to issue bonds and notes in an amount not to exceed $4.3 million for the purpose of financing, I have demolition or safeguarding, repair, rehabilitation, and consolidation of school, classroom, and storage buildings, including Hallowell Memorial School, North Smithfield Elementary School, North Smithfield Middle School, North Smithfield High School, and the Andrews School, in accordance with the plan adopted by the Town Council on May 19, 2014. And again, there's a number of whereases. Those are the resolutions, and at this time, I would entertain a motion to, do I need to do them individually, Mr. Solicitor, or can they be done as a whole?
I think you do them as a whole because it's one amendment.
So I'm proposing, make a motion to amend the resolution previously enacted by the Town Council with the 3 that are before us this evening. Motion by Mr. Zelinski, is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Alves. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Yazbek.
I firmly believe that the proper way to go about this would be to reconsider the motion that was previously passed and then replace it with the 3 if that's what you want to do. Since you've already had the legal opinion, it's going to be a losing point, I'm afraid. So once again, for the reasons cited in the prior motion, I'll be voting no.
I just wanted clarity too, just because I just didn't understand how we're just doing that. I agree with Mr. Yazbek too, as far as that. I would like to separate, just as the other amendment, and do the 3 separate ones.
For this, I will turn to the solicitor. It was his opinion that I saw.
Would you like that microphone? Let me just go, under the council rules, the motion to be reconsidered must be done at that meeting or the next scheduled meeting. We're beyond it. So the only thing that I think that we can do is amend. Now, because it's on the agenda as one amendment, I think that we're going to have to vote it through with one amendment. It's not 3 amendments, it's 1 amendment.
So how does that work? Is it get separated?
Yes. Well, it's all or nothing. So it's gonna be, you have the one resolution that's already there. You're gonna break it up into 3 different questions. But you're gonna do one vote to do the 3 different questions.
Or will it be 3 different questions on the ballot?
Yes.
Okay.
Any further questions? We've had a motion, it's been seconded. Hearing no further discussion, I would ask for a roll call vote.
Mrs. Alves? Yes. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Yazbek?
No?
Mr. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes, motion carries. On to item number C, under this agenda item. Approval of proposal and expense for Stage 2 application to Rhode Island Department of Education. So we had in our packets a letter from the Department of Education indicating that the Stage 1 application that was already filed has been approved, which lets us move on to the next stage. The next stage, I will point out, is somewhat expensive. It's a total of $31,000 to complete the application. The Department of Education accepts applications for Stage 2, I believe it's 4 times per year. And we were originally looking at getting this done by the July 23rd deadline to learn the outcome in September. That would have been convenient because the vote would occur in November. We would know for certain, whether we would be getting the 1.7 approximately reimbursement from the Department of Education. There are still other opportunities, and in particular, there's an opportunity for this to be submitted for May approval of next year, in which case the application will be due July 31st, 2014, and we would know, we would hear by the spring of 2014. My sense is that if this passes the voters' approval, we're more than likely going to proceed with this project regardless of whether Rhode Island Department of Education reimburses the town the $1.7 million or not. All of the borrowing that's taking place for this is all assuming that we don't get anything back. So the total $12 million that we would borrow would still be the $12 million. The only difference is if RIDE approves the Stage 2 application, we would be entitled to getting 1.7 back. So I'm proposing, and I'm just putting it out there for council consideration, that we not incur the $31,000 cost now, and rather wait until after the referendum in order to know whether we should seek the approval from RIDE for reimbursement. I have checked with the architect on this. He's checked with the Department of Education. There doesn't appear to be any problem with that timing. It doesn't disqualify us from anything. And I think that I feel more comfortable extending that money after we know whether it's met with voters' approval. So my proposal, my motion, is to not act on the stage 2 application at this time and defer until the May 2014 approval cycle. Before, I guess I made a motion, I should have asked for if there was any questions, but why don't I get a second first and then we can have discussion. Is there a second on that motion?
Second for discussion.
Second by Councilor Zawinski. Discussion. Any questions?
So we're gonna walk away, basically, at this point in time and asking for the 1.2 million. 1.7.
At this point in time, we're not walking away from it indefinitely. We're saying, this is my recommendation, is let's hear what the voters have to say about the referendum. And then if they support it, then we file our application to provide for the reimbursement.
But historically, a lot of these bond issues come down to a handful of votes, yea or nay, and swing the whole thing. I think it would be, it doesn't much matter to me, I don't know for it anyways, but I think the majority of the council would want to be able to sell this thing to the taxpayers of the town by saying, we're actively seeking 15% of this debt service to be paid for by the state. Evidently, we're not going to be able to do that if the majority takes this action tonight. So once again, probably more burden back on the residential taxpayers of the town of North Smithfield.
I think we can tell the taxpayers that we're going to be pursuing RIDE reimbursement. In fact, I think it's good news that we have a letter in our packet from RIDE saying that the stage 1 application has been approved. That just means we go into the stage 2 where you provide much more detail to back it up. And I feel comfortable, confident in the architect designer's experience on this. I think they know very well what is reimbursable, what is not reimbursable. They still have to demonstrate it and prove it to RIDE. And I feel very confident that that application will result in the town getting reimbursement. And I think that's something that we can sell. I'm just suggesting we not spend the $31,000 until we've heard from town voters first.
Mr. President, with all due respect, the last major building project was this particular building, and we definitely had all the approvals of RIDE in place before we went to bond. I know that for a fact.
So we've had a motion, we've had a second, we've had discussion. Is there any further discussion?
Question, Mr. Flannery. You've had discussion with Joseph Silva, the school construction coordinator for State of Rhode Island.
I have had discussions with him, not recently and not about this. My most recent conversations were with Mr. DeQuattro of RGB. He then got on the phone with Mr. De Silva and called to inquire whether there would be any concern if the town council voted to delay the stage 2 until after the vote. And his report back to me was that there didn't seem to be any problem with it from RIDE's perspective.
And Superintendent Lindbergh, have you discussed this with him as well?
I had not.
I agree, it would be much easier to sell if we had it in place. And sometimes you wait too long and the money's gone. So I'd rather get it committed to us right away than to wait and then maybe it doesn't come. So I'm with Ed on that.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been seconded. Without any further discussion, I would ask for a roll call vote.
Sells?
And just as a reminder, the vote is, the motion, I believe, was to not act on the stage 2 application at this time.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Mr. Keating?
No.
Mr. Gaspar?
No.
Mr. Zelinski?
No.
Mr. Flannery?
Yes. So that means that we will proceed with a $31,000 expense to
No
the
motion.
Maybe each motion fails, but a motion to now pass it.
Need a positive motion.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So it's a motion to approve.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve? Is there a motion to approve the proposal and expense for the stage 2 application to the Rhode Island Department of Education at this time? Moved by Councilor Zawinski. Is there a second? There's no second. So, I know we say it doesn't fail for a second, but there's no action to be taken on this agenda item for lack of a second. Okay, so moving on, I believe that Mrs. Lindsay had mentioned this, and I was going to ask the council's indulgence to act on two items that are time sensitive, bearing in mind the time. And I would propose to move agenda items 14, new business, F and G, to this point on the agenda.
Want that as a motion?
No, I'm just going to do it unless there's any objection. So new business, discussion by council vote or other action on resolution approving financing for constructing an extension of sewer lines, and pumping stations in an amount not to exceed $3 million. And I will turn it to the town administrator. We're on the item having to do with the $3 million sewer loan from Rhode Island Water. Would you like the microphone, Madam Administrator?
No, I would just like permission to sign the letter, stating that we will, as a town, begin the process with Rhode Island Clean Water to enter into an agreement with them to get the $3 million for the Branch Village sewer project, which is really an economic development project, with this being the major feature that needs to be accomplished prior to anything moving forward. As anyone knows, with economic development, if you don't have it pad ready, water and sewer, then you're less likely to have interested prospects. So I'm asking permission for the council to authorize me to sign and move forward with clean water.
Documents in our packet, I wanted to ask a clarifying question. I think I know what the answer to this is, but I would appreciate a clarification from the town administrator and from the solicitor. That this document does not obligate us to taking possession of any of these funds at this time. My understanding is it's more akin to a line of credit that we're allowed to tap into once we have an approved project, which right now, the project, we have a concept for a project, but there's a number of things that still need to happen, including the approval of the actual engineering, the rewrite of a sewer ordinance is to determine how the assessment will work. And so my understanding is that we wouldn't be expending and drawing upon this, I'll call it a line of credit for lack of a better word, we wouldn't be drawing upon this $3 million until we have an approved project. And I understand further, it's a reimbursement program. So we would make the investment and we would get reimbursement through this line of credit. My further understanding is that the reason that this is being made available to us is because this particular project, the concept for the project, is on DEM's project priority list. That's how you get access to the low-interest funds through the Rhode Island Clean Water Finance Agency. So I did meet with the folks at Rhode Island Clean Water. I had a number of questions, and that they satisfied my concerns about any exposure the town has, whether we, have to stop making repayments as soon as you sign this document. And my understanding is that it's not the case, not until we actually start to expend the money, and don't have to do that in any particular time frame. So we can continue on our path of refining the project and rewriting the sewer ordinance to understand how it's going to affect ratepayers before we spend the time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does anybody else on the council have any questions? Pass the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. President. So when we refer to this resolution, we refer to the project. Does it have to be more definitive than just the project? Does it have to give some type of needs and bounds, roads, connections, lots? Help me understand this a little better, this resolution.
We're actually not on the resolution yet. We're still on this, the authorization.
Right. We're on the first part of it. But I think that the question is relevant, which is, what is the project? The project has been defined initially by Jeremiah and Associates. It was, they presented a plan for a significant reduction from what had been proposed back in 2007. Everyone remembers that that project got pulled. There was great opposition to it. I think there were many reasons for that. It extended into an area that people didn't need it or want it. There were many questions about the EDUs, whether they were real, whether they were future. And the project has frankly lagged. In the meantime, the town's redevelopment agency engaged, with our permission, the Horsey Witten Group to take a fresh look at the Jeremiah plan, to look for ways that the plan could be implemented at a lower cost, tying into the Brickell property. They did, in fact, come forward with a plan that's been presented to the Sewer Commission, actually presented to the joint meeting of the Sewer Commission and the Town Council, I believe. And their proposal was for an approximately $3.6, $3.7 million project. I think everybody recognized at the time as well that the sewer ordinance, which governs how a sewer project is paid for by ratepayers, that the methodology of the EDUs was wholly inappropriate for this particular district, being a mixed-use district with some very small properties, some very large properties, and there was consensus to take a new approach, to actually return to an old approach in North Smithfield, where the cost would be assessed based on frontage, linear foot of frontage, and land value, which would go a long way toward appropriating the costs in I think what people perceive to be a fairer way. It doesn't mean that there's not still going to need, there's not still going to be a delta between what the average homeowner expense is and what is a reasonable expense. So until that's done, we don't have a project that's ready to go forward. But what we have this evening is a commitment from the Rhode Island Clean Water Finance Agency for a loan through them at below market, I believe it's 66% below market rate, for which we don't have to draw on immediately. It's just their commitment and our signing of the fact that we want to proceed with the project. We're not ready to proceed with the project. We're probably a long way from proceeding with the project. But the Sewer Commission, the Redevelopment Agency, and the Economic Development Commission are all working in tandem to try to advance the project, get the sewer ordinance rewritten, and we have in our packets also a letter signed unanimously by the Redevelopment Agency supporting both of these items on the agenda. And we already have a recommendation from the Sewer Commission to proceed. So it's been vetted by the Sewer Commission, vetted by the Redevelopment Agency, and that's what we have before us this evening. I would think that what we'll be looking at going forward is a presentation on the refinement of the proposed sewer project. So we know exactly the extent of it, what the total cost is. We have an estimated cost based on the Horsey Witten review. That's going to need to be refined, and we're going to need to present it to Town Council, public hearing, and decide to proceed if we want to. If we don't proceed, then we aren't spending any of the $3 million being offered to us from Clean Water. The interest rate is, I believe it says in the document, 66 1/3% below market. I don't know if you can correct me, but that was my recollection from that. That's correct. So, if we don't do this, it doesn't mean we can't proceed with a sewer project. It just means that we would have to borrow the money at a higher rate. There doesn't appear to be any downside to proceeding. We're not obligated to spend this money and incur the costs associated with doing that. The only way, and I think from the Clean Water Finance Agency's perspective, they have so much money available to lend to communities, and they do it based on projects that have met their highest priority, meaning they're on the project priority list, for all the reasons we know about, the environmental reasons. We've discussed month after year. And so that's why we're on that list. That's why we're eligible to utilize these funds through the Clean Water Finance Agency. If we don't take them, and we can choose not to take them, or to say that we want to have access to them, that's fine by them. They will take it and turn it around to another community that wants to use it. So I see no reason to not proceed with either of these two discussion items today. So just as a reminder, what we have before us is discussion by council vote or other action on resolution approving financing for constructing an extension of sewer lines and pumping stations in an amount not to exceed $3,000. We have the actual resolution, which I don't have in front of me, but if somebody has it, I'd be happy to read the introduction portion. Resolution of the Town of North Smithfield approving financing and constructing an extension of sewer lines and the acquisition, construction, and installation of pumping stations and related facilities and equipment within the town, approving the issuance of bonds and notes, therefore, in an amount not to exceed $3 million. And then it goes on to cite a number of sections of state law. If anybody would like me to read that in its entirety, I will. And if the town administrator and town solicitor would like to offer any final thoughts on what we've discussed, the accuracy thereof, now would be a good time.
Question for the solicitor? Sure. So we don't need to go in front of the taxpayers asking for the authority to borrow $3 million in a bond?
You do not, because you've already gotten it with the, back in 2007.
And so that money's not been spent yet? We have at least $3 million that's not been spent? Correct.
I also think there's a distinction because I believe that the loan through Rhode Island Clean Water Finance Agency is a revenue bond. It's based on, the loan is based on it's going to be repaid by ratepayers, not a general obligation, which the vote, I believe, the referendum in 2007 was a general obligation loan, which commits the entire town. I don't think that was how it was sold, to be repaid by the whole town. But the reason I believe that it was done as a general obligation bond was because you get a better interest rate on a general obligation bond because it's backed by the full faith and credit of the town versus a revenue bond which is only backed by the ratepayers. And this is a loan through Clean Water Finance. It's not the town issuing bonds. I believe what I was referring to is that the interest rate on the loan is 66 2/3% below the market rate. Whatever the market rate is. No, did I not read
The
that?
subsidized interest rate for the loan is 66 2/3% of the market rate. So if the market rate is 6, you're going to pay 4. Simple terms.
Right.
3, 2.
Okay, is that how it would work?
You basically get a 1/3 discount. That's the way I read it.
And you're correct. The way I described it was incorrect. So I would entertain, or I will make a motion. I will make a motion to approve the
Would the council president entertain a question?
yes, certainly.
If
Could you just please
that's
step forward
approved,
and identify yourself for the record, though?
Bob Thurber, 20 Bryan Avenue. If the $3 million is approved and it's not used for several years, does that rate still stay the same? Is that 66 2/3 below?
I can't answer that question.
You're in a contract with them, so.
Whatever the market rate is at the time they go out to bond.
The administrator is correct. The market rate may fluctuate. It may be 6 today, it may be 9 when we need the money. It may be 3 when we need the money. So that's going to move. Whatever that moves to, you're only going to pay 66 2/3 of whatever that rate is.
Is that a floating?
It's based on the market.
But it's based on the market, but when they finally go to market, you're going to get locked in, it's going to
It
be
will
fixed
be
at
locked
that
in.
point.
Okay.
That's the way it always
Right,
goes.
so it would be better to do it now than later. Okay.
So I make a motion to approve the resolution financing for the constructing and extension of sewer lines and pumping stations in an amount not to exceed $3 million. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor McGee. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Sells? Yes. McGee?
Yes.
Yazbek?
No.
Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes, motion carries. The related item is discussion by council vote or other action authorizing the town administrator to sign a $3 million Rhode Island Clean Water Finance Agency administrative loan document as was presented in our packet. Is there a motion? Moved by Councilor Alves. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor McGee. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Sells? Yes. McGee?
Yes.
Yazbek?
Yes.
Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes, it's unanimous. Now returning, I would just ask before we go to the next items, is there anything that is particularly time sensitive in terms of award bids and so forth? Yes, so we're going to move to item number 14, new business A. First one is discussion by council vote or other action on extension of trash recycling agreement with Pendergast.
Good evening. Thank you for considering me to be moved up. The first one, trash and recycling agreement. Just with one hand here. Back in 2011 and 12, we entered into a one-year contract for $280,000. Since that time, part of that contract was a one-year contract, which also afforded the town and the vendor one-year extensions if we felt the need. 2012, 2013, we had a one-year extension at no additional cost. 2013, 2014 was another one-year extension with the present company waste haulers, and there was no increase. So for 3 years, we didn't have an increase in the trash recycling contract. 2014, 2015, we have spoken with the waste haulers, the present contractor, and they have proposed a price of $482,850,000 for a one-year contract. I have reviewed this. We have negotiated with this company in light of the past 3 years of no increase in the trash and recycling. So I recommend that this one-year contract for 2014-2015 be approved.
Are there any questions from the council?
I don't have that agreement, the contract with Mike Packer.
The contract itself,
Or any information.
I think the only thing that I have is the letter. Can't see that front door.
You can't see that?
The agreement and amendment things.
What date, April 7th, 2014?
Should be a letter from which one? No, that's totally different.
Because the only thing I saw was the solid waste and recycling with the Rhode Island Resource Recovery.
That's not the item. That's not the item.
This is
I mean, if you want to put it off to the next meeting,
It's no price. Is there a price increase?
there is a price increase.
How much?
4%, $18,570. There has been no increase for the past 3 years. This is the first year. I think the company finally has to meet their needs.
Mr. President, if I may, through you.
Yes.
Mr. President, can I see that letter? Thank you, sir.
What that letter is from the president and CEO of WH Equipment, which is the waste haulers. Per our conversation, it is my understanding that WH Equipment will continue to service the trash and recycling needs of the town of North Smithfield for the upcoming year. This service year will run from July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015 at a cost of $482,850 for the year. That's signed Pat Sperduto, President and CEO of WH Equipment, dated April 2nd, 2014. The only other option we do have, if this one-year extension is not approved, is we would have to go out to bid, which
I think the price is also very fair.
There's less competition in the market.
Pendergast, you have a recommendation for the council?
yes, my recommendation, based on the fact that there hasn't been an increase in 3 years, this is the first year that it has been, the 4th year, I recommend that we do go with this one-year extension with WH Equipment for the one-year contract of $482,850.
And Madam Administrator, do you have an opinion on?
The best bet for us right now, as far as having good service, they've been very willing to work with us. They've accommodated us on a number of issues and, have not, we're willing to work with us a few years, but they have the initial contract and see how it worked out. And we're very satisfied.
If I may inject into the recommendation also from the administrator, we have had talks for the past 6 or 7 months with automating trash and recycling. And to buy myself some more time to look into that is probably a good option, and is one of the recommendations and the reasons we are going with the one-year contract because of the high cost of going to fully automation.
Are there any motions?
I don't mind making a motion. Wait, can I say that again? I'd like to make a motion to extend the one-year contract with WH Equipment for our town's servicing trash recycling needs from July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015 at a cost of $482,850 for the year. This represents an increase of 4%. That's a motion.
Motion by Councilor Zelinski, is there a second? Second by Councilor Rouse. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, and that's a roll call vote.
No. Yes.
Yes, motion carries. Next is discussion by council vote or action on award of bid for crack sealing. Also, Mr. Pendergast.
I would like to make a recommendation to spend up to $100,000 for crack sealing. We are going to piggyback on the State of Rhode Island DOT master price agreement for crack sealing from Seal Coating Inc., 825 Granite Street, Braintree, Massachusetts. The price is 26 cents a linear foot. We have $25,000 left over in a line item in the highway budget, and under the road resurfacing account, we have approximately $75,000 left over. Based on the pavement management study from Casali Engineering, we've identified $375,000 in crack sealing that some of our roads could use. I also have in front of me I've actually got a $97,000 figure in front of me. The roads can fluctuate. We have this study we've already spent the $23,000 for. So I'm just looking for approval to piggyback on the DOT bid.
Question. So this is presented as a price per linear foot, and then we can choose to do as much as we can afford to do. My understanding is that the the work that was done by Mr. Casale to grade our roads. There's a number of them that are in the 4 to 6 category, meaning that if we would do something like this, it could very well extend the life of those roads so that they don't progress to an 8 or a 9 in the short term. So it seems like the thing for us to do. I'm supportive of it. The council has, this past budget cycle, a total of $200,000 for road repaving, of which 23 or 25 was spent on the report by Mr. Casale. I'm just a little unclear as to the amount that's left over, because I've heard 75,000 left over, and I've heard that we may have as much as 375 available to do practically, so maybe I heard incorrectly.
I've never heard the 375. The 375 is a number that we've identified in the pavement management study that they're recommending to be crack sealed.
So why wouldn't we have something on the order of 175,000 left over after paying for the report?
Because we paid $83,000 for the Pomona Street drainage and road resurfacing.
Okay. There are any questions from the council?
Yeah, I know. This kind of guys, forgive me. I used to remember all these acronyms. I'm going to assume that RM stands for ready mix on this memo. What is PC? We're talking about the price is $26.
That's the material I guess they use.
Yeah, do we know what it is?
I don't know, no.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And everything has to follow the DOT standards anyway, so.
Politically correct?
Yes, politically correct, ready mix. I love it. But Mr. Pendergast reminded me it's right on standards.
We follow that right along. It's in the contract that has to follow.
Are there any motions?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councilor Zalinski to approve the proposal presented by Mr. Pendergast in our packet. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Alves. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I've asked for a roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes. At this time, I would entertain a motion to extend to 10:20 in order to finish up any pressing business. Is there a motion to extend to 10:20? Moved by Councilor Zalinski. Is there a second? Okay, I guess we're going to be finishing in 5 minutes. Is there anything from the administration that requires immediate action before we adjourn? Payment of bills. So this would be under agenda item number 11, discussion by council vote or other action on consent agenda. All items listed will be in this section are considered in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a councilor so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda. Are there any items to remove?
Payment of bills.
Payment of bills. Minutes, from which one?
Hang on, Mr. Clark. Second, I will tell you. April 21st.
April 21st. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented with the removal of the payment of bills in the April 21st town council minutes? Moved by Councilor Alves, is there a second? Second by Councilor Zalinski, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes. Item number 12, discussion by council vote or other action on specific items removed from the consent agenda. Minutes of April 21st. I just remind you we have 3 minutes left.
Mr. President, page 12, third paragraph up from the bottom, Mr. Smithfield commented that they are looking for selling town land at the highest price. I'd like to have that edited with a statement. Mr. Smithfield commented that this ordinance amendment was looking for selling town land at the highest price. It sounds like I am making the motion to sell property. I was not. On page 13,
2 minutes left.
I can't work with the pressure.
Oh, we can take another motion to extend. You can extend by 5 minutes if you like.
So,
Motion by Councilor Zalinski to extend by 5 minutes to 10:05. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Alves. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Larry?
Yes, you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under the minutes of March, I didn't call it, sorry, they
April 21st, anything further?
Thank
You
you.
need a motion for that suggested change?
Well, I didn't mention it up front, I didn't pull it, it was basic, I'm gonna let it go, Mr. President. It's
Okay. Payment of bills.
Mr. President, I move B&E Consulting to a separate vote in and of itself, along with Robinson Law. And I believe those are the only two.
Okay, motion by Mr. Yazbek to remove payment of bills to B&E and to Robinson Law. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Zawinski. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Salves? Yes. Deep? Yes. Yazbek?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Flaherty?
On the remaining payment of bills, is there a motion to approve the payment of bills as presented?
I'll make that motion as presented, recommended by the town financial director as well as the town administrator.
Motion by Mrs. Zawinski. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor House. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I've asked for a roll call vote.
Salves? Yes. Deep?
Yes.
Yazbek?
Recused.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
Mr. Flaherty?
Yes. Motion to approve bills to B&E Consulting and Robinson Law as presented in payment of bills. Moved by Councilor Alves. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor McGee. Is there any discussion?
Once again, I'll be voting no, as I don't believe it complies with the town charter. Numerous times I've raised the opposition in the last 3 months. I'm raising it once again.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Salves? Yes. Deep?
I'm sorry, can we back this off? What was it?
Motion to pay B&E Consulting and Robinson Law.
Yes. Yeah, could we repeat the vote, please?
So far, Ms. Salves, yes. Mr. McKee,
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Yazbek?
No.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
Mr. Flaherty?
Yes, motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn by Mr. Yazbek? Is there a second? Second by Councilor Alves. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion